Now, as the war escalates between Israel and Gaza, officials in Israel are demanding the resignation of United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres for alleging international law violations in their Gaza offensive. Guterres had said that the Hamas attack on October 7th did not happen in a vacuum. He also claimed that the Palestinians have been quote-unquote subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation. Listen in to these comments made by the chief.
It is important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation. They have seen their land steadily devoured by settlements and plagued by violence, their economy stifled, their people displaced, and their homes demolished. Their hopes for a political solution to their plight have been vanishing. But the grievances of the Palestinian people cannot justify the appalling attacks by Hamas, and those appalling attacks cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people.
These remarks expectedly have angered Israeli officials. Israeli envoy to UN has demanded that Guterres resigns from his post. In a sharp response, the envoy even said that the UN chief has expressed an understanding for campaign of mass murders. Israel's foreign minister rejected connecting the violence to the occupation. He said that Israel gave the entire Gaza to the Palestinians with its withdrawal in 2005.
I think that the Secretary-General must resign, because from now on, every day that he is here in this building, unless he apologizes immediately, today we called him to apologize, there's no justification to the existence of this building. This building was established to prevent atrocities. How can the Secretary-General, with his words, justify in any way the terrible atrocities that happened to our civilians, innocent civilians?
We give Palestinian Gaza till the last millimeter. There is no dispute in regards to the land of Gaza. But they take the money they receive from the world, and instead of building hospital, office building, commercial center, they took the money to dig tunnels, to build rocket factory, not for the favor of their people.
The United Nations chief has demanded an immediate ceasefire. He has stressed that the only realistic foundation for a true peace and stability is the two-state solution. Several other nations, including in Europe, are also voicing support for the solution. During the recent Cairo Peace Summit on the ongoing war, the European Union highlighted that a lasting peace can be based only on such solution. French President Emmanuel Macron, who is currently on a West Asia tour, has also reiterated the need for a two-state solution, while calling for an immediate cessation of the aggression in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel has banned the mention of Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg from the Israeli public education curriculum. Thunberg has expressed support for Gaza while sharing an image on social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. The 20-year-old, along with 3 other activists, were holding placards in support of Gaza. Now, to discuss what's happening on the ground, WION's correspondent Jody Cohen is joining us live from Ra'anana. Jody, you have been covering the Israel-Hamas war very closely from ground zero for us. What is the latest on the discord over the comments during the UNSC meeting by Guterres?
Israel has called on UN Chief Antonio Guterres to resign and is denying visas to UN officials now after Guterres appeared to justify Hamas's massacre on the 7th of October. Remember, in that massacre, 1,400 people were killed, and I've witnessed classified evidence of those atrocities which have not been released to the public out of consideration to the families, but have been shown to several world leaders. Now, Guterres said that it is important to also recognise the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. At that UN Security Council meeting on the Israel-Hamas war, and Israel's ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, says that the comments constitute a justification for terrorism and murder. Now, Secretary of State Blinken, in his speech to the UNSC, said that he's been having conversations with world leaders who have acknowledged Israel's right to respond to Hamas's attacks, but is asking where's the public condemnation of the horrors, where's the outrage, where's the revulsion? That's a quote from him. Now, Foreign Minister Cohen also spoke at the UNSC. He played a recording of a Hamas terrorist calling his parents to celebrate killing 10 Jews. And family members of the hostages gathered outside the UN headquarters calling for action on the hostages. And Foreign Minister Cohen subsequently cancelled a meeting that he had scheduled with Guterres.
Now, to decode the Israel-Gaza war further, we are being joined by Sergei Sumleny from Berlin. He is a defense expert and director of think tank European Resilience Initiative Center. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you for having invited me today.
Now, it has been 18 days since Hamas launched its attack against Israel. A few days back, we heard the Israeli chief military spokesperson saying that the army is awaiting a green light from the political ranks to invade Gaza. What is keeping Benjamin Netanyahu from giving the go-ahead?
Well, it is an incredibly complicated military task. And we know that the Israelis, they tried to do it several times, and every time it was an extremely complicated task. Look, it is a city warfare. It is a warfare in a very highly densely populated area with a lot of underground tunnels, with a lot of human shields. And we know that Hamas is famous for using civilians as their human shields. So every time when the Israeli army tries to go into Gaza and find those who are responsible for the terror attacks, civilians die, and you just cannot start this operation and run this operation without taking into consideration that civilians will die, and maybe many civilians will die. This will not only undermine the justification for this operation in eyes of the international community. This will also mobilize more Palestinians to join Hamas or to develop some hostile approach towards Israel. So it is a lose-lose situation for Israel, and of course it's a hard task. And don't forget that many Israeli soldiers can die in this operation, and after having suffered with the unprecedented losses, 1,400 civilians have died during the Hamas terror attack. Now, thinking that some dozens or hundreds of Israeli soldiers will have to die, it is also a hard decision. Still, as I wrap it up, it is impossible to imagine that this Hamas threat can be finished without the army of Israel, Israel Defense Forces, enter Gaza, clean up and find those terrorists and destroy the Hamas structures. It is also in interest of Palestinians, because many of them are also suffering under the Hamas rule, and Hamas is not famous for being kind to those who oppose it inside or outside.
Right. You make an interesting point there. Mr. Sumleny, bring in your expertise here. We are getting some unverified reports of Israel planning to flood expansive tunnels of Gaza. I want to ask you two questions. If there is a ground invasion, how will it look like? And this the flooding of the tunnels that we are hearing, how effective do you think that is going to be?
Well, the tunnel system is, of course, the nightmare for any operation. It allows, first, they were built partly, if not mostly, with the EU money. The EU sent humanitarian support to Gaza, allowed Gaza to buy concrete, allegedly for civilian buildings. What did Hamas do? They took this money from the civilians and invested it into underground tunnel system, not in the schools, not in the hospitals, not in the housing, but in their war machine. So now we know that there are underground bunkers, underground ammunition storages, underground tunnels for hiding, for going around the city, etc. And the Gaza Strip is not that big, so you can actually build the complex underground tunnel system under the whole Gaza city, allowing to move without any visual confirmation. You can just go one part of Gaza and exit another part of Gaza. So what to do? There are a lot of options to do, like seismic shocks, wherein idea when you see like how Israel bombs Gaza, sometimes bombs hit empty places, and we said, okay, what was the target? The target was obviously something underground. We would also see how Israel bombs hit the ground, and then secondary explosions, like in the straight line, appeared, like somewhere like in the empty places that are the ammunition storage which detonated on the ground. So seismic shocks can help to destroy at least partly these tunnels. Flooding could be an option, but once again,
right.
just think about if Hamas brings civilians to these tunnels, and Israel forces don't know what is inside, they have no confirmation. Then just think about it: if Hamas brings civilians as human shield to these tunnels, and Israel forces like flood them, then then Hamas brings like 20 or 100 dead children to the ground and said, "Look what did the Israelis do?" And the whole international community will once again blame Israel for what actually Hamas did, because it's Hamas which is using civilians as human shield.
Right, all right. Mr. Soumlani, I just want to quickly go back to a point you made earlier. You said that Israel does not need to enter Gaza or invade Gaza, rather, to destroy Hamas completely. In fact, you went on to go that an invasion of Hamas would actually be a lose-lose situation. So I want to ask you this because we're not getting a clear picture from Israel at the moment. What do you think Israel's end game is with this war?
Well, I mean, like lose-lose, because like you cannot win this war with one occupation or with one effective military operation. It's impossible. If I say destruction of Hamas, I mean first of all the elimination of military leadership of Hamas and the destruction of its financial fundament. And financial fundament which allows Hamas to buy weapons, to smuggle weapons, to buy fortification, etc., etc. You cannot do this only from outside. Like you cannot destroy the background, the backyard of Hamas just by like pointed strikes. So for Israel, it's important to enter Gaza to liberate practically Gaza from Hamas. But once again, if you enter Gaza, you will have civilian casualties, you will have military casualties, and every day of this operation will lead to a worse political image of Israel worldwide. And that is what Israel may not ignore. That is the dilemma.
All right. All right, Mr. Soumlani, thank you so much for speaking to us here on WION The World is One, and it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.